The Homeschool Awakening. This is the latest film from Kirk Cameron, and it is about homeschooling, but it's so much more than that. It's a film about family. It's a film about why families are important, how homeschooling can keep families together, how raising our kids is the most important job as parents, and how you can actually go about doing this no matter what you may think otherwise. This film is a textbook lesson plan, seminar, conference, whatever you want to call it. It is a how-to homeschool, not only how to, but why, giving tips, tricks, and all kind of cool things for all walks of life, big families, small families, single mothers, the whole nine. It's fantastic, and we're going to talk about this film in my next conservative take. So if you're unfamiliar with the way we do our movie reviews, then please check the link right here. That will explain everything. There'll also be a link in the description. Also be mindful that there will be a spoiler section. There will be a few points in here that you may not want to know about prior to watching the film. Look out for that. Normally for the story or depth for a film like this, a documentary style, I would give about a 6. But for this particular film, I'm going to give it a 7 because it did have a higher weight to everything they said in this film. This film is about kids, it's family, it's about changing lives, it's about restoring freedom to our community and our country. It is a really, really fantastic film, and it keeps it very light. Some of the stronger points that I'm going to mention a little bit in the spoiler section, even that was kind of not glossed over, but not hammered home as you would get in like a Dinesh D'Souza documentary where they really hit you over the head with it and it becomes heavy. No, they state the facts about the place of families and education and where it sits in the Constitution, and they go on from there. And they really do a really good job of just introducing each of the families that do this, how different they are, and how their challenges were, and just what they got out of the whole process. And their story is what makes this film. And Kirk Cameron, obviously he and his wife did the whole thing themselves in terms of homeschooling and producing this film. And they just reflect on their own lives as well. So they're actually part of this as part of participants, as well as the other families here. So it's a very unique film. And I will say this about some other things too, but I will wait in some other sections of it as we go forward. But right now I'm gonna give it a 7 for the story. So as we get into the emotional impact of this film, I'm going to give it a 7 because there was a weepy eye moment that I had that I can't really pick one particular part that did it. I think it was the accumulation of stories, seeing the lives changed, seeing families being freed from being trapped into what society says they have to do, understanding that kids learn a different way and seeing them grow because the homeschool environment allowed them to do so, and how families could just live life. And at the end, you know, you had the dad, and he was telling the story, and the kid was there, and all of that kind of just like, it was just awesome moment. The film was great. I loved it. Okay, so as we get into the intangibles, I'm going to give this film a 10. And this is the easiest 10 I've ever given for a film for intangibles. And the reason is because this film covers from A to Z everything you can possibly imagine a parent would need to know going into homeschooling in terms of how to get started. Am I qualified? What's it like? What do I have to do? Is it legal? How do the kids evolve in the process? How is it done in terms of scheduling? What curriculum do you use? What about the key thing they said in this film was, what about socializing your child? That was the big one. And so I will say we homeschool our kid, and I see the same thing going on in these families and what we see as well. It's challenging. You get tips and ideas. There's so much packed in this film that the intangibles really should be an 11, quite frankly. This film is off the charts in terms of that. It is the definitive movie you need to see to know anything about homeschooling in terms of myths, all the way over to the end result of raising godly children. It's wonderful. So for the category of watchability, I'm going to give this film a 10 for the reasons I mentioned in the intangibles and then some. Let's talk about a little bit of the technical merits of the film. In terms of soundtrack, it's very jovial, it's light, it's poppy, it's fun to listen to, it's not taking itself too seriously. It's a really upbeat soundtrack, and it's really cool. And there's a lot of B-roll that shows slow motion stills, a lot of handheld motion cameras, so it doesn't look like it's really a rigid film. It's just something that's done at a high quality, just in a very loose stylistic manner. And it really plays well with this whimsical approach to this film because it's about families and kids are whimsical. And so it does fit very well. I liked it. There's one aspect of it where there's an interviewer of a person who is a technical person, a doctor, I believe she was. And that's a set frame that looks like a regular documentary. But outside of that, people are on the couches. They're in an RV. They're traveling down in airplanes and gliders. It's a bunch of cool stuff where these locations are set. So yeah, it's a really good film, easy to watch. And like I said before, it's a 10 in that category. So for my rating for the Homeschool Awakening, it's going to be a 10. Because I, as a homeschool parent, I see so much benefit from this. This, to me, is the core of the country, of the planet. It is the family. It's what God put in place for us and to maintain, and that is the family. The family is so important, and this film puts at the center of that families that are God-fearing families. It's a discipleship. Okay, so here we are in the spoiler section, and I want to just point out 3 or 4 things here really quickly. The first thing is the government has no business educating our children. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that. In the film, he actually showed you that if you go into the internet and Google education in the Constitution, it says basically that the government has the right to do so, but it's pointing to the ACLU as a reference point. No, I'm sorry, it's not there. That goes to the 10th Amendment. And I'm going to read something here as well. 1642, there's something called the Satanic Deluder Act, which was basically an act that said that we're going to educate our kids because if we don't, and they're not educated, they could be lured into evil. And that was part of that in 1642. I wrote that down here. And also it talks about here about this guy by the name of Horace Mann, who was a guy who basically reinvented the education system, became the first Secretary of Education anywhere. And out of that came the modern education system, public schools, more or less. Also, they mentioned about the 1962 removing of prayer in schools, and 1963 removing the Bible from the school as well. And I saw one key point here, which was nothing to do with the film, but I saw a picture of Samuel Adams on the screen behind a family. It was the black family that had the father who was a basketball player and the wife. Anyway, in the background, you can see a picture of Patriot Samuel Adams. You can't sneak one like that on me. I saw that and caught it really, really quickly. So look out for that. So for this film, The Homeschool Awakening, I'm going to give it a score of 18.5, which translates to 4 stars and a go for my conservative take. And 18.5 is a super duper high score. I don't believe I've given the movie a high score like this in years, probably 4 or 5 years. It's close to being a perfect score, which is crazy considering how tight I am with these numbers. But this film is important enough, and I think it merits all of this without me trying to shill for anything. But I think this film is well-deserved. It's technically sound. And I think Kurt and his wife, Chelsea, deserve big kudos on this. And it's just going to be beneficial to so many families from now into who knows when. And it's just so good because this film is not just about homeschooling. It's about transitioning and transforming our country back to its roots. And that is a God-fearing, family-centered country. And so what say you? Are you planning on seeing Kirk Cameron Presents The Homeschool Awakening? If you do, let me know. And in particular, I want to know, if you do not homeschool your kid and you watch this film afterwards, would you consider actually doing so yourself? Or if you were opposed to homeschooling before this and watched the film, would you recommend it to someone else or even yourself for that matter? Comment below. I'd be curious to know what you think. And as always, if you like what we do on this channel, where we take pop culture and politics, filtered to you in a conservative manner, then please check out some more videos that we have for you right